how did you manage to navigate at the age of 27 coming to Germany and knowing, I don't know, did you know anyone, and evolving through the German system and how critical and hard it is? How was it for you?
It helps to have some Germans on your side. Like, make friends with the locals ASAP. Definitely helps. I moved at the time because of my ex-partner.
I would give you an example of someone who comes, let's say, from, let's take my beautiful country, Uganda. You come to Germany here. First of all, you have problems with extending your visas and so on, bureaucracy and so on. And by the time you're on top of this, there are certain limitations. There are some extents that you cannot go to. You have to do an akeno. You have to register. You have to go through a lot of bureaucratic things that at the end of the day overwhelm you. And then by the time you think of starting something, you either have lost the morale, or else the German system says, no, you cannot, because either you're not enticed to that, or you cannot get this help, or you cannot get it. So I feel like at the end of the day, you end up resorting to a certain type of job, like what we're saying here, that you do not want to do, because the German system says, no, you're unable to go into that direction because you do not have this.
Hello, guys. So welcome again to the Onlyfacts podcast. We here once again to give you guys the, as usual, wonderful conversation, insight of living, of being in Germany, both as an expat, as an immigrant, as a German, as whomever you are. Thanks for joining us once again. I'm here as always, and I'm here again with my co-host Livingstone, and we're here with our amazing guest for today. She's Kim, but I would like to give a much more insight introduction to herself as well. So please, Kim, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
So we were already discussing before that I've also lived and worked in many places, and I was born in Sweden, raised in England, lived in Italy for a while, and I've been here in Berlin for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
Which is a while. So I've gone through a few life chapters, a few Berlin chapters whilst I've been here. And when I came here, I was working in high-end bespoke furniture designing furniture for extremely rich people in London. And I thought, well, I'm 27. I can do this myself now. Let's start a business in Germany. So I started my first iteration of a business doing that. And I hustled and created a furniture collection and did all the things. But I was meeting with interior architects and wanting to be the middle person between like a Tischler and the person designing the whole concept. And I met with so many people and they said, nice things, but we don't have any clients for that. And there was me sitting in Dahlem or in wherever. And I'm like, have you seen the size of this house next door? Are you kidding me? And I realized that I'm not going to succeed in Germany unless I understand this system. So I perchance saw a job advert for an exclusive interior design shop and design studio. And I was like, I need to go and work here. And then I did for some years, and my work carried on in interior design. And over the years after, when I then started my own business in 2017, I then began to see people on much more personal and intimate layers and see that I'm here for an armchair, but they don't need me for an armchair or wall color. They need me to create a feeling in their homes, because right now they can't live their lives fully because not every area of their home is set up to support them. And that just made me dig deeper, and I had an interest in holistic and more spiritual things all along the way, and connecting, how we eat to how we feel and disease and all these things. And so I decided after a very big project I did in 22, that this is the time to broaden my horizons, and I retrained as a transformative life coach and emotional release facilitator. And so now I can help people in a very holistic way on many levels. And yeah, also like you guys enjoy having deep conversations,
Exactly.
but being a space holder and really helping people on a preventative level, that excites me.
And is that with the whole of Germany, or that's only in Berlin?
I do it online as well, but I do love the in-person stuff. And as it is, when you put an intention out into the world that you want to do something particular and you see that certain people are drawn to you, I want and like to work with men, because I feel men are very there's like an under representation of people supporting just men.
Wow.
And I think men don't have many places where they can go and talk completely openly to people as well.
Thank you, first of all, that you do that.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the best tell me about yourself I've ever had in my life.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, because you're not only describe yourself, but you also describe how it connects to what you do and how you transform from one chapter, being an interior designer, into also wanting to help people in terms of personal feeling. That good positive, being in a good positive mindset and space, and also connecting it to how, most times assume we're okay all the time, and not being able to being able to be in a safe space where we can actually speak openly as well.
Yeah.
So that's amazing connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for that. And I hope we're able to basically transfer that positivity to our audience. And you can also see from your perspective as well, how to look at things or look at life, in a positive light, rather than the bleak version of life alone. Yeah. So thanks for coming, and then I'm looking forward to us exploring that. Yeah. So tell me, so you've been in Germany for 17 years. So because today, I think I want to keep today really positive and exciting. So tell me, what has been, your interesting journey, what you find exciting in Germany, what you find exciting in Berlin, what do you think are some of the positive stuff, I can look forward to, our audience can look forward to, generally speaking, from your time here or your 17 years living in Berlin?
I think Berlin offers still, even though it's got more expensive, it still offers a lot of very cheap, free and not expensive options to being involved in the city and being involved out exploring things, from going to galleries to the amount of nature to things that you can do with kids. There's really a lot of different possibilities, and also in the different seasons, like when the summer comes, there's the open air cinemas, there's lots of opera, ballet, that kind of culture, but there's a huge art scene as well. So very creative in many different aspects. That's one of the things I really love about Berlin. And it's central to a lot of other places. You can explore out and around outside of Berlin as well. And I think it's a cultural hub. It's still very metropolitan. There's a lot of people from a lot of different places. And even though one sees in some places that Germany is maybe not tolerant, I actually don't feel like that's the situation.
But would you extend this to Germany as a whole, or this is just synonymous to Berlin? So in a broader spectrum, in Germany. So how would you connect this to the entire German system and Germany as a country as well?
I've never lived anywhere other than Berlin.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I've been to different cities, of course, but I can't imagine, what a day-to-day life would look like in Hamburg or Munich or Stuttgart compared to where I am now.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're a Berliner.
Ich bin ein Berliner, It took me a while to understand that that's a donut.
But Kim, now that you're painting for us the tremendous, you've painted for us a picture of the tremendous work that you're doing. How did you manage to navigate at the age of 27 coming to Germany and knowing, I don't know, did you know anyone? And evolving through the German system and how critical and hard it is. How was it for you? How did you take it on?
It helps to have some Germans on your side. Like, make friends with the locals ASAP. Definitely helps. I moved at the time because of my ex-partner, who I then went on to have a family with and everything. But we actually met online. So after 6 months of me living here and me living in London and him living here, I said, well, it's either going to work or it's not work. Let's see. And the worst thing that can happen is that it doesn't work. And then either I stay or I go back. Yeah. And so, I made that decision around New Year. And I said, I need to move in the summer because I need energy and, being out, being able to meet people easily. And I mean, this is at a time where Facebook basically didn't exist. Instagram didn't exist.
Really?
So trying to meet people was not easy at the time. I mean, obviously my ex is a Berliner, so he has a big friendship group, but they're his friends, not my friends. So finding my people has taken a while. Yeah.
How was the communication then? But if you say Facebook,
the same as it is now. I mean, I'm completely fluent in German and work in German in my day-to-day life, but I speak English still with him because I didn't speak any German then.
So speaking of moving here, right? Talk about the mindset shift, right? So you were born in Sweden and then you lived in the UK. So moving here, what was the mindset shift like for you? So because I think, obviously, every country, every city has their distinct characteristics and how they do things, how people react, how people communicate, how people, relate. So, what was some of the positive mindset shift you experienced, moving to Germany at that point in time, and also over your entire time here as well?
Well, I think that when I came here, I could see that the system, at least in the beginning, looked very similar to the Swedish system. Very social, looks after its people. I didn't feel at the time that the system in England was very good. People were very stressed. People have this culture of going out and drinking directly after work. Everyone was like, I'm more stressed than you are. I'm so busy. And I wanted to get away from that culture. And there was aspects of the system that I didn't like there. But coming here, I was like, oh, wow, they've got a pretty good health system. And I'm getting to a osteopath with relative and all these kinds of people with relative ease. I'm able to see a specialist if I need it with relative ease, all this sort of stuff. So
maybe back then.
So I definitely saw those things as a positive. And in that moment, I wasn't in the system very long. I started working here freelance as a Selbstständiger straight away. And only after that, after a year, I became employed. And so being then employed and looking back at that time now, I think that being in the system and being in Germany as a whole, you're definitely in a better position if you are employed rather than being self-employed. The whole system is set up for being employed.
I think that's slightly, shifted over time though, because for me now, I kind of equate it to
exactly.
Like it's equal standing now, right? So because I'm talking from experience of people, who are also freelancing as well, right? Because at the end of the day, what you just need to know in Germany is communication with finance is really important.
Yes.
So, so if you're able to get your task structure right, I think usually it gets easier. So the only problem is, again, we talk, when we speak about the bureaucracy as well. So that's the only major problem, because then it takes so much time. And if you're a freelancer, you don't have that much time to deal with that, sort of bureaucracy. And then getting a tax advisor or a steuerberater can be very, expensive as well. So then it comes to how, if you can manage your time, or if you can afford steuerberater, then it gets easier.
You still need a Steuerberater.
But that's only for a few, you know. That's only for a few who can afford it. It's not that everyone can afford it. On the other hand, so
you know, no. I mean, I think every business needs a tax advisor. Yeah. So even, you know, the only reason why, you know, as a private individual, why you can file your taxes and service, because most of the time, you know, as a worker, as you said, like most of the tax situation is already being done by your, you know, employer income tax payment taken away directly from your salary. You know, your social security is also taken away from there as well. So that's why it's always difficult to do that as a freelancer, to do that on your own as well.
But in regard to that, in regard to this whole thing that Kim, you just mentioned, and Lorenzo, that it is more easier here to be employed than being self-employed. This is something that we were discussing also off camera. Like, agree with me or disagree with me, but I have a feeling that the German system is built that in a way that if you are someone who comes from the outside part of the world, it drags you in a corner. It has rules that it has already streamlined for you that you have to follow. It dictates how you are going to develop yourself.
So I don't want to cut you short, right? But so from my perspective, I think it's more equal now being a worker or a freelancer. So it just depends.
I see it different, I must say.
How you handle things. Yeah, of course. I know you see it different. So I just
why am I saying this? Because I have a feeling, like, for example, I would give you an example of someone who comes, let's say, let's take my beautiful country, Uganda. You come to Germany here. First of all, you have problems with extending your visas and so on, bureaucracy and so on. And that, by the time you're on top of this, there are certain limitations within your visa and so on. There are some extents that you cannot go to. You have to do an Anerkennung. You have to register. You have to go through a lot of bureaucratic things that at the end of the day overwhelm you. And then by the time you think of starting something, you either have lost the morale, or else the German system says, no, you cannot, because either you're not enticed to that, or you cannot get this help, or you cannot get it. So I feel like at the end of the day, you end up resorting to a certain type of job, like what we're saying, Kim, that you do not want to do, because the German system says, no, you're unable to go into that direction because you do not have this. You do not have this. And I feel like Germany is a country, it's a first world country, but when it comes to that, I feel like Germany really needs to work on that, because bureaucracy as it is very overwhelming and a lot. And you being someone who comes from the outside, adding on the language, adding on that German is still, I would say, not in the analog, but really pretty analog in a way. It's not something that is easy. But what would you say has changed in the past 17 years that you've been here in regard to what I've just said?
In terms of the system and the bureaucracy, zero, and that's the problem. It's so behind the times. I mean, everyone that I know here, and I have a fairly half and half sort of foreigners and German friendship group here, working in all different spectrums and self-employed, employed, everything. And the German analog system is laughable. People are like, this is like 1990. What is going on here?
I know, right? And this is something that it makes me feel sad in a way, because look at countries like China, you look at countries like Japan, you look at countries like Singapore, you look at Dubai. They're on the next level. These are countries that Germany is competing with, economy-wise, political-wise.
It makes me sad for Germany, because there is so much potential, but they're not doing themselves a favor, even for people who are employed. I recently had to go with a friend who's been here for 3 years, working his butt off in a full-time job, hasn't learned German well enough to have a good conversation at the Arbeitsamt because he lost his job. And came up, we were talking in English with the guy, and I said, maybe I didn't need to come to translate for the German. He said, oh, no, yes, we're not allowed to speak English. And I was like, excuse me? You're working here at the Arbeitsamt. You speak perfect English, but you're not allowed to because you're saying everyone who shows up at the Arbeitsamt should be able to speak 100% fluent German. Well, that's not conducive of bringing people into Germany to work here.
So I think you guys are looking at this from a different angle than I do. Right? No. I love German. I know you're not criticizing it. No. Of course, I know you are not criticizing it.
I am criticizing it in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about, like the German system. So just the way we would talk about the system, in wherever we were born, right? So we talk about the system because we love the country we're there at the time, because we live there and want it to be improved and be better as well. So, right. But, for me, I see it from a different angle, because for me, I think the bureaucracy is more of the people themselves, rather than the system wanting to be that way. All right. Because from my understanding is Germans are a bit more conservative than a lot of places as well. So in that angle, it means, they rely on a working system or a working method. If it's working, it's pretty no need to change it if it's working, right? So of course, if you're coming from a different social system, for you it's totally different, right? So that's why we would see it from a different angle as well. So from my perspective, the people themselves sort of define how their social system goes. So because if they are also fast-paced people, very open to change, then they would also change this stuff as well over time.
But Lorenzo, to get you right, you say that people want this?
Why do they complain? No. I'm saying it's this way because it's also kind of similar to how they are as people and wanting. If this structure has been working in 1980s, right, and it's precise, then let's just keep it going, right? Yeah. But over time, it needs to change with the time, with the timeline. But the thing is, again, Germans are very conservative.
It has to change now.
Yeah, they're very conservative. So but again, for me, to be honest, I like a bit of that structure as well, and the socio-economic system. So of course, I would want things to be faster as well, but at the end of the day, there's always problems. And at least we will find, some sort of problems anywhere we live in. So I guess bureaucracy is just a German thing. And I've actually come to accept it and just live with it, basically. Because it's not as if it's I wouldn't say it's impacting on me negatively, to be honest. So that's why I'm not, I don't make big fuss of it. Because I've always found a way to go push further, with the bureaucracy and all of that, and not just, and just do it. But of course, I think they should digitalize. So that's my biggest problem, digitalization. I have over the years that I've been here, so I have too many letters, for unnecessary stuff, basically. So so of course I would want to see that. But I get where you guys are coming from.
I think, I've spent so long designing that everything that I do, I see from a design perspective. It's like when you go into a public building and you pull the door instead of push it, but you do it the wrong way because it's not intuitive if you were supposed to push it, and then you end up walking into it, but you were supposed to pull it. That's bad design. But you feel bad or like a bit of an idiot when that happens to you because...
that's bad design.
That's bad design because it should be intuitive.
I won't be blaming myself anymore.
It should be intuitive. It's looking at... It's like in the supermarkets here, there's nowhere to pack your food at the end. And in Sweden, in England, you have a thing in the middle and it spreads off in both sides, and then you can pack your stuff in the bags with ease. And without stress, without rushing. I
don't know what that is actually.
When you buy your food, if you're at Lidl, then you have this little 30 by 30 centimeters, and you have to put it straight into it, but you don't really have time to pack it properly, right?
It's different.
That's right. Exactly. And it's the same in England, but that's like a micro stressor for your life. It's so unnecessary. And because I've seen a lot of the world and lived in different places. I'm like, well, why do we do it like that? When I open a conversation, which I often do in a supermarket, even the people working there, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. I wonder why they didn't do that. And I'm like, well, it's probably the person who's designing it is not using it. And that's often the same with governments and with politics, is that often the people creating something aren't in the trenches with the people living it. And so a system is set up based on a theory. The same with someone sitting programming an app for whatever, say women's health or something, but the programmer, the 10 guys working on it maybe don't know how women would use it and the problems that are there.
So speaking, so now we've talked about like the German bureaucracy, we've talked about like the German system and stuff that, also like, this not similar to like other places as well. So what would you say, how would you, how would you reflect, from your experience as well, that people, that expats who want to live here as well, or people generally speaking who want to live here, how can they adapt to like the German system, and then be able to thrive, given all of this stuff we just explained. So we speak about the bureaucracy, so we speak about like the socio-economic system as well, which is good. Try to give us from your perspective how people can thrive and adapt to the system, while keeping it open-minded as well.
Like I said, I think it helps to be employed. To definitely make German friends and ask them, like, what is it I need to have a good setup so that you don't have the stress later down the line. That you have certain papers in order, that you need certain insurances and this sort of stuff. What else? Learn German. That's always going to be, I always think that whatever country you live in, learning the language is
crucial.
Is a must, really, to fully integrate. And find, if you're going to be here for a few years, then it's something different than knowing like this is where I want to establish myself. This is where I want to be for a longer period of time. Because I've also had different friendship groups of people who were just here for short periods. And then that's obviously like, now I need to find other friendship groups, it's hello and then goodbye 3-4 years later. So actually finding the friendship group, which is going to be able to support you over the long term, is also it's just a really nice to have.
But Germany as a whole, if I'm looking at the technological bit of it, I want you to help me in this. You've been an interior designer and so on. Have you noticed any kind of change when it comes to German and its technology right now? Is it something that has favored you in the previous years and in your line of work, or is it something that you would say Germany needed to do more in this lane, or maybe it would have helped me if they did this and this and this? Like, would you outline for me this, like, in terms of technology? Because we know Germany as a country that has advanced technology in the outside world. So, but when Corona came, proved us a bit different. The vaccines were manufactured somewhat different and then imported into Germany and so on. So Germany also did its thing. They have the robot pockets. Germany has technology, but in a way, like, there are some natural disasters or some things that happen and you question it a little bit, but Germany has advanced technology. Everyone knows that. They produce the best cars. They produce one of the best... Say it.
I think you're scrutinizing Germany too much, though.
I love Germany.
I know you do. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe again, it's always I always find like this conversation very, very interesting as well. Even when I think about it myself, right? I also go into that as well. So because the thing is, one thing I know for sure is there's no complete society or no complete system, right? So So there's always going to be something lacking in whatever economy or in whatever, in whatever system as well. I mean, you can see the US going crazy right now because, there's some stuff lacking in the economy that they wanted to basically bring back, right?
Have you had time to look at Germany's rivals right now? Have you had time to look at China? Have you had time to look at Singapore? Have you had time to look at Dubai?
Yes.
Would you in any way, technology-wise speaking, compare it to Germany or bring it even near to Germany?
So technology is always advancing each day, right? So again, I would say technological, structure-wise, from a governmental perspective, these countries, you can view them better off. But when you talk about, technology based on private and commercial use, then Germany is also very good as well. So I think
I don't disagree.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always good for us to keep a distinction between the governmental technological capability and the commercial technological capabilities, because Germany produces some of the best engineering, engines, precision wise in the world basically. But the only problem is that's not translating from the commercial side to the governmental side. And that's just the major problem that I see in the disconnect. So one of the best finance ERP system in the world, SAP, is from Germany, right? So it's more about connecting. And I can tell you from my, in my workplace, right? So we're moving to so our latest SAP is 2017 and we want to upgrade. But the thing is, for public clinic, a friend of mine that worked, that is, a doctor basically, they're still using the SAP from 1995, right? So you can see from the commercial side and the governmental side, there's a disconnect.
Kim, I want to bring in your opinion very shortly to this. I want you to say what you think. But Loreto, I mean, we know Germany as we know the German big countries. We know Bosch, we know the Siemens, and they've had really huge companies that have over time had great technology and so on. But my point here is, if you look at some countries, like for example, recently I've just seen a video that China has licensed these I don't know how they call them, but these taxis that are flying right now. So
taxis,
making life easier for the natives in terms of that, like everything flows digitally right now. I watched a video last time. You don't need your wallet right now to pay in Germany. In China, you can pay with your face. These things that I'm talking about right now, and I feel like Germany is still far. I don't know. It's either it's either a problem within the system or it's the people that do not want to adjust to that. But Kim, please, when it comes to the technology part, what's your opinion?
I think that Germany, in many respects, is obviously careful on people's privacy, especially because of its history and the GDR and people talking about people and so on. So people have a lot of respect for their privacy. I think that when we look at these new technologies, when it comes to face recognition, being able to wear glasses, when you don't actually know that someone is wearing glasses, that they're listening to something, can take, the Google glasses or whatever they are. I think stuff like that, we can't hinder it, but I don't enjoy every aspect of it, because I do want to be walking down the street and just be a nobody. I don't want, for me personally, for someone's glasses to be telling this person, this woman who just walked past you does this and this, and she said this and this one time, and her neighbors said blah, blah, blah. And this actually has nothing to do with my character. This is what is out, maybe some information that's out in the world, but it doesn't give people that true connection to make their own a judgment about someone.
And conclusion about you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So speaking of that, right? So I would love to ask basically what has been, because we've talked about, the German system entirely. So like you asked, so living in Germany, living in Berlin, what has been your best experience, and also what have been your worst experience as well? And how would you advise people under both experiences? So both your best experience, how it was for you, how you see it like going forward, and your worst experience, and how you would advise people, who find themselves in like similar situations to like, to be able to like go out or get out of that, experience.
Yeah. General life experience or work?
No, it can be anything. It can be anything. Yeah, just, you can tell me both general life and work as well. Yeah.
Well, I think having been here for so long, one of the best experiences is just finding an apartment, which was beautiful, which I renovated with my ex for a very decent price back in 2011. Definitely a highlight. And since we've not been together for the last few years, I'm still in it and renovating. I renovated it again and painted every wall and created something completely new for this next chapter of my life. And so just that process, that cathartic process of doing that, maybe, I don't know if it's Berlin specific, but I love the charm of the apartment. I love the life that I can have in there. But at the same time, the older I get, the less materialistic I get. And so I'm like, I can create this anywhere. Now I've done it once, but it was more the process, really the journey of doing it. So that's something I enjoy.
All right, it's amazing.
And I think, no matter where you are, you need to remember, like, who am I and what fills up my cup? And just make sure that you make time for that. So that's something I try to incorporate in every day life.
There is also something I want you to help me with here. Because, Germany has really some well-structured, it has really well-structured support systems and so on. Has this been of use to you? Because you mentioned in Germany to be on the safe side, have to be employed and so on. But what things could you recommend someone out there that have been of great use to you that maybe people might not be having any idea about within the German system?
Getting a Rechtsschutzversicherung. You asked me about what was my worst experience. Well, it happened recently. And basically 3 years ago, me very blauäugig, I had a lot of stress at the time and an awful lot of work, and I needed a car very quickly. So I was like, let's lease a car for 3 years for the budget that I've got, but I want it to be simple. And so I won't mention now who I leased it from, but basically I said, I know that I can incur costs at the end. I don't want that. This is how many kilometers I'm going to drive. Thought I had said everything I needed to say. Is this the contract that I'm getting based on what I've... Yes, it is. Well, 1 month ago, I got an invoice to pay the rest of the car because I realized then in that moment I had a Restwertvertrag on my leasing rather than a Kilometervertrag. And they wanted 27,000 euros from me for my car.
So for English-speaking audience, what are those words in English?
So a Restwertvertrag is basically a contract where this is the price of the car in the beginning. This is what the car's going to be worth in 3 years. And then you have to pay this.
Okay.
I thought the kilometer contract, that's what I had because it said the amount of kilometers on it, that is a contract that you say, okay, I'm not going to drive over 10 or 15,000 kilometers per year. You hand the car back. Of course, maybe you need to pay for some scratches or whatever. And as long as you've driven under, you're done with the car, you hand it back. I contacted this company for 2 months knowing it's finishing. And it wasn't until I drove there on the day that the leasing contract finished and said, what is going on? Why is no one answering my emails? I want to know what my options are here. That I found out that I need to actually contact the bank. And on contacting the bank, they tell me, well, this is why we've sent you an invoice for this.
That's horrible.
Yes. And if I didn't have parents who, in this moment in time, could help me out, then I literally don't know what I would have done.
Yeah,
But you can imagine waking up to a stress of
I know.
I need to magically have 27 grand materialize.
I think generally you have to be really careful with what you're signing and what you're getting yourself into. And I've had this experience. I had to unfortunately also learn, not the hard way, not that really wasn't that hard. But when I came to Germany, I just went into a contract with a certain SIM card, but then I won't say the name. And then eventually I felt like I do not need it anymore because the data speed and so on wasn't really that good. So I was like, no, I'll opt for something else. And then invoices just kept coming. At the end of the day, I just got a yellow letter because I wasn't paying. And then I was like, I've been not using the SIM card for a long time now. They're like, you signed this.
Yeah.
And they hide it. They made really sure that they hide it, that I wasn't able to see it, but it was there.
Yes.
And it was my fault. At the end of the day, we came to an agreement, but that is crazy. So just do not sign anything you're not sure about.
Exactly. And that's where I get back to learn German, even with my 17 years of German and understanding German and Germany, the system, I still ended up in this mess because I don't have experience with leasing a car. Yeah. I didn't ask someone to look over it. Yeah. I did it online, signing it. I didn't have a chance to look it over with someone in that moment. Yeah. Yeah. And so finding out what the bank had as the contract, that had all the information. If I had had all that information, I would never have signed the contract. But that
definitely
wasn't the information I was given.
But they did not provide you the information, or was it that you didn't know?
No, they didn't. They weren't transparent about it.
That's huge.
So that's where we come into having the right insurances and a Rechtsschutzversicherung. Because if I had that, which now I've learned a lesson, that I will always ask a German to look over a contract, especially when it's around a considerable amount of money. Yeah. 2, if you have the Rechtsschutzversicherung, that's basically you then have cover that you can contact a lawyer and they can help you and take that stress off of you. And
is there any other thing you can think about right now?
I was just like, really? What film am I in? This
that's crazy.
What's going on?
That's crazy.
Is this your only experience when it comes to contracts in Germany as well? Because I also think that that's one of the most complicated things as well. In Germany, is contract wise, because then there's always this complication of you can't get out of the contract easily, and also from your experience, does language barrier affect, if you're an expat, does language barrier affect how you view a contract when you read it and understand it as well from your perspective?
Yes.
And also getting as much, like you just said, getting as much information as possible.
Yeah.
So how would you recommend people do that? How would you recommend how would you recommend they read the contract? How would you recommend what they need to do, the information they need to ask for before signing, one of those contracts?
It's honestly, I think, worth spending, even if you have to spend money for someone who knows their stuff around something, that when it has something which will have negative financial consequences for you later on, it's worth spending that 50 euros, 100 euros to have, say, a lawyer who knows their stuff look over it and take that half an hour. But also, today it's a different technology as well. We can use Google Translate. You can just hold it over the page and you can all of a sudden, then see it in your own language as well, which is also so useful because sometimes you think you know what a word is, but it's so specific to the topic or the kind of contract that you're signing. So you're not 100% sure about it. And Germany tends to have with telephones and stuff fairly long contracts. And then knowing that if I'm not staying here forever, I'm probably still going to have to pay even if I leave. So in all cases, try to get a month by month contract, that it's a monthly payment and that you can cancel at any point.
I want to also get your knowledge about the banks and so on. Do you have certain banks that, I wouldn't want to market for them right now. Sure. Because I want to go into the financial part in a way, and how that in a way, because that in a way as well is a problem. Like, where do you get what financial support and so on, and what financial support not to get? Because I realize that in Germany, there are different companies that are very quick at giving out credit and so on. And then at the end of the day, you're having this huge pile of credit cards that you have with you, that huge sums of money that you have to pay back.
But not in Germany.
No.
In Germany, you pay off your credit card at the end of the month. There's no credit cards really in Germany that you don't pay off at
What I mean is,
there's also some for yearly as well. There's some
maybe,
you pay yearly as well.
Maybe, but they're harder to come by. Not just anyone gets that kind of credit card. It's like getting a dispo, that you have a overdraft in your bank account. You don't always have that. In a lot of other banks in different countries, you naturally have that. So having savings is always, living a little under your means and making sure. I mean, that's just good financial advice anyway for anyone of any age, to spend a little less than what you need and make sure that you have 3 to 6 months savings is always going to be a good thing. And also in terms of finance, that you have, you can do it this way. It's like learning to use Excel, but then getting an Excel expert to tell you how to do stuff. And you're like, oh, I could do that in 5 minutes instead of in half an hour, right? Yeah. And so when you get to a new country, it's like understanding the system. Ask the people, ask more questions than you think. Figure out how to be smart about stuff, actually investing via insurances and that sort of thing, and the savings plan. Well, then you get tax back from that, or it's tax deductible. It's like we're already paying, quite a bit of taxes in Germany. Then just do your investments in a smart way instead of, but it's a lot of learning by doing. I mean, now unfortunately,
you mentioned investment right now, because that was going to be my next question. Which line, if someone was looking to invest, like, what would you recommend and so on? But before, I'll bring that later. I think I'll bring that later, because I feel like I know, but 17 years, a lot of change.
Yeah, true.
A lot has changed. And I think back then, people had a different understanding of how the German system runs and how everything runs in Germany. And I think maybe with time, things have either got easier in certain sectors or got even harder,
Well, that stuff, like investing, I think throughout the world, the fact that we can access apps, which are places where we put our money into, and we can, with a click of a button, buy a stock or sell a stock, that all of that is still able to be done here and much, much easier. But if you're looking at long-term investments, be it with property or be it with putting money into the stock market, into savings, ETFs, or the S&P 500, something like that, then it's maybe more clever to do it in a different way that it is tax deductible. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thanks a lot, Kim. I think you've taken us through your incredible journey, in 17 years here, and and also what we can try to do, what we can avoid, and and how we can also improve. That's not just helpful to me. I hope it's also helpful to our audience and my co-hosts as well. For like a wrap up, right? Because fortunately we don't have much time. So I would like you to just give us like some final words in terms of like summarizing what it's been for you living here. What you appreciate more, what people should look forward to, and what people should stay positive about, basically. About living in Germany, living in Berlin.
Yeah.
As a whole.
Yeah. Well, I think that people often, when stuff does get hard, it's easy to think, it's their fault, you know, and I think we all need to take responsibility for ourselves. And Berlin really does offer so much goodness, you know. It's a country where you can go and buy your beer at the Späti and sit in a park and drink it and play some music in the summer, and no one's gonna look at you weirdly like they might do in Sweden or something, where people care are much more. We go and sit at a bar or a cafe. We don't just sit with alcohol in a park, right?
Yeah.
You know, so for anyone thinking of coming here, I mean, the etiquette of Germany, Berlin, well, specifically Berlin, is anything goes. Like, when you dress down, that's how you go out. People don't dress up here. It's super casual. You can be who you want to be. You know, there's every race, color, hair, color that you can possibly imagine. You know, I really appreciate that, even though I'm not into it necessarily, but that there's an FKK, you know, the freie Körperkultur, which is being a nudist. Like, I just think that's cool, you know, just that people are not so uptight about that stuff, you know. So even though you have this kind of rigid system that we've talked about, that you would like, we all have some aspects of seeing there's room for improvement, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is easeful in so many other ways, and it's very accessible to good and organic food and naturopathic and alternative medicines and chiropractic and all these sorts of stuff, like looking after yourself well. So I really appreciate that about Berlin.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for these positive words. I think, I absolutely agree with you on that as well. And of course, I think we can agree on these, also, as much as they are positive, there's also a lot to be improved, within the system as well. So thanks a lot for coming. Thanks a lot for sharing your experience with us as well. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and hopefully we're going to do this again at some point where give us at least one sort of seminar of positivity and striving to be the best as well. Thanks. So for me, that's a wrap. And I would like
Kim, thanks really for sharing that with us. I mean, there are a lot of other questions that we would want to get into, and
I see the question marks still hanging above your head.
I know, but for reasons of time, unfortunately, we might not be able to dive into that. But thanks for sharing that you've shared with us.
Pleasure.
One word that you want to leave for the audience, one or two words, or it could be a sentence.
Feel it to heal it. That's what I'm living by.
Well, with Feel It to Heal It, I cannot add a lot much to it. We're Onlyfacts podcast. Please follow us on Instagram, TikTok, like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Feel it to live it. I cannot express it more than what she's just said right now. I think I'm losing even words right now. But for instance of time, I would say from my side, it is a good evening.
Goodbye. Yeah.